Hey friends! So, in this video, we are going to be talking about the Google and Yahoo email updates that are coming in February of 2024. Now, if you're watching this video before February of 2024, so I'm recording this in January, you're going to hear me referencing this as an update that's coming, okay? It doesn't matter if you're watching this before or after February of 2024. If you have a Subtrio account, you need to make sure you follow the tips and tricks that I'm going to give you in this video to make sure that your email is all compliant and ready to send out to Google and Yahoo email addresses, okay? So now these aren't my tips and tricks, all right? These are straight from the stores, straight from our platform provider, and there's going to be 6 tips that I'm going to give you today. 6 things that you need to make sure that you are doing to be compliant and ready to send emails out, okay? So let's get started. All right, so I am here in my Subtrio dashboard, and my first tip for you is going to be set up a dedicated sending domain, okay? Now, if you have followed along on any of my videos showing you how to set up your Subtrio sub account, then you know that setting up a dedicated sending domain is vitally important for your emails to work properly, okay? So if you have not done this, then you absolutely need to go do this, all right? Now, I use Big Scoots for my hosting. There's several reasons why they're amazing and I love them, and their customer support is just phenomenal. I mean, like, I've had a lot of hosting providers over the years, like the last 20 years plus. And Big Scoots has by far been my favorite and the best one I've ever had. So, what you're going to do now, I have a whole video on this, okay? So I'm not going to go into the specifics on this, but I am going to give you the quick version. And to do this, you need to go and set up a subdomain off of your root domain for your dedicated sending domain, okay? And then you're going to come into your Subtrio account, come here to settings down here at the bottom, and then you're going to find email services. And then you're going to come over here and click on dedicated domain and IP. And then you're going to click on add domain, okay? And then you're going to put that subdomain in here and add and verify, and it is going to give you a whole list of, I think it's 5 different records that you need to supply to your host provider and ask them to add those records to your subdomain, okay? So depending on who your host provider is, obviously I can't go through every single one of them in this video, for the sake of time, right? There's so many. But you'll just need to supply that information to your host provider. Tell them, if you don't know how to make a subdomain yourself, you need to ask them to create a subdomain for you, and then provide them with these text records. They're text, TXT records, MX records, a whole bunch of different records, and have them set that up for you, okay? Now, if you are on Cloudflare, you might get away with them it automatically, like if you connect your accounts, it'll like talk to Subtrio and it'll automatically do that for you. Okay, so just know that if you are on Cloudflare, you might be able to get away with doing this a little bit easier. All right, so once you have your dedicated sending domain set up and verified, okay, we are going to move on to tip number 2. So tip number 2, we are going to set up our DMARC, our DKIM, and our SPF records, okay? So if you are on Big Scoots, they make this really easy for you. Let me jump over to Big Scoots. Okay, so I'm inside my cPanel, and we are just going to come over here to where it says email deliverability under tools, and then email section, email deliverability. It's right at the top, okay? Click on that, and it is going to open up all of the subdomains you have on your account. All right, so obviously I have a lot of subdomains on here. Just ignore that. Okay, so what you're gonna do is either one, ask your host provider to do this, or you can do it yourself if you're on Big Scoots because it's really easy, all right? Okay, so as you can see, I already have mine done, but I'm gonna show you how to do yours real quick. So find the subdomain, right, that you set up for your dedicated sending domain. Come over here and click on Manage. Now that's going to open this up and it's probably going to have the first one is probably going to be valid for you if you're on Big Scoots, okay? And your SPF is probably going to have a little triangle, like a warning triangle here that says there's a problem. Okay? There's going to be a button right here that says install suggested record. You're going to click on that and it's going to hopefully give you a green little box up here that says everything worked correctly. Okay. Now, like I said, if you're not comfortable with doing it this way on your own, just email Big Scoots, email your host provider and say, I need to set up. Usually, let me see if I can find, yes. Okay, so here is what it looks like. Here's what I sent Big Scoots, okay? I'm trying to ensure that I'm prepared. Can you help me update them? So when I sent them this, they only updated the SPF and DKIM records for me. They did not do the DMARC. And I think if I would have sent them the DMARC information that I needed them to add to my records, then they would have went ahead and done that also. So for future reference, if you're emailing Big Scoots and asking them to do this for you, I would go ahead and include the DMARC information, the DNS settings that you need them to add, and those are going to be the host value is going to be underscore DMARC dot the first part of your subdomain, okay? So if it's like if your dedicated sending domain is contact.simpletechconnections.com, it's going to be the first part of your DMARC records is going to be underscore DMARC dot contact, okay? And I'll show you here in a minute how that works for Big Scoots. And then the rest of the information they need is going to be V equals DMARC1 semicolon space P equals none semicolon. Okay. And I'm going to show you these and I'll make sure to include them. But that is the information that I would also send and ask them to update the DNS records for DMARC with those records. Okay. So let's jump back over to our cPanel and then come back over to tools. And I'm going to show you how I updated my own DMARC records. And if, again, you're not comfortable doing with that yourself, just ask Big Scoots to. Okay, so once you're in your cPanel, you're going to scroll down until you find your zone editor underneath domains. Click on that. Okay. And then whatever the root domain is for the subdomain that you created for your dedicated sending domain, I want you to find that on your list and click on Manage. Okay. And that's going to open up all of your DNS settings in here. Now, again, if you are not on Big Scoots, I realize that this tutorial is probably not going to be very helpful for you. You just need to contact your own host provider to get this taken care of, okay? It's still the same information, it just every host provider has it set up just a little bit different, and so you need to make sure that you're doing it, that you're in contact with your own host provider, okay? All right, so let me show you the DMARC setting that I set up, okay? So here is my DMARC setting that I set up for my dedicated sending domain, right? And I'm going to show you how I did this in a minute, but this is what it looks like, okay? So if you are adding this yourself to Big Scoots, this is what you're going to do. You're going to click on Add Record, and your valid zone name is going to be underscore DMARC dot the first part of that subdomain, okay? So mine is contact.simpletechconnections.com. That's my dedicated sending domain for my email and Subtrio. So mine is going to be underscore DMARC.contact, okay? Now see what happens? It automatically puts the rest of that in there. You leave this one alone. Then you are going to click on type. And you're going to choose a TXT record because that's the type of record this is. Okay. And then over here, you are going to put V equals DMark1. If you do not put the 1 on there, it is not going to work. Okay, so make sure you put the 1 on there. And then a semicolon space, P equals none, semicolon. Okay, and then you're going to click on Save Record. And it's going to give you a little message that says, hey, it worked, okay? If it says, no, it doesn't work, then you're going to have to figure out what went wrong. But that is how you set up a DMARC for it. And actually, let me cancel this real quick. Let me go back and let me set it up as the contact on here so I can just show you. And we'll go through this again real quick, okay? All right, so I do not have my DMARC record set up yet for Easy Blog Design, my contact.easyblogdesign.com. So we are going to come in here and click on Add Record. All right, so remember we want underscore DMARC dot contact, just the first part of your subdomain, because sometimes if you go ahead and add the rest of that part, like for Big Scoots, right, it auto-populates the rest of my root domain. So if I were to put that in there, there's a good chance it's going to do contact.easyblogdesign.easyblogdesign.com, all right, and that's going to throw us an error. And actually, let me show you real quick how you can, before I put this in here, because I want to make sure you can see. Let's go to this website. It's called dmarkian.com, okay? And let's just go to the first page. And this is a DMARC record checker, okay? This is what it looks like when you open this up. So if I put in contact.easyblogdesign.com and click on check my domain, it's going to tell us unable to find a DMARC record, right? It's not protected. So that means we need to set it up, right? So what happens if I put in contact.simpletechconnections.com? All right, it tells me it's valid. Yay. Okay. So I just wanted you guys to know about this website. So we put in contact.easyblogdesign.com, check domain. Again, it's going to tell us that it doesn't have a DMARC record, which of course it doesn't because we're still setting it up, right? The other thing they show you is if you scroll down a little bit farther, they do show you whether you have a valid SPF and a valid DKIM. So that's also nice to know. Make sure you check that. All right. Okay, so let's jump back over to our cPanel and finish this record out, okay? So under name again, we have underscore DMARC, got the first part of our subdomain, okay? Not the whole thing because for Big Scoots, it auto-populates the rest. We just want the underscore DMARC dot contact or whatever that first part is. Ignore the TTL part. Underneath type, we need to change this to a TXT record because that's the type it is. And then underneath the record, you are going to add V equals DMARC1. Don't forget to put the 1 on there because it will not work if you do not add the 1, okay? Semicolon space P equals none semicolon, okay? And then we are going to come over here and click on Save Record. All right, what you want to see is the green checkbox that says success. If you do not see this, if you get an error, then we must have done something wrong and you need to go back in and fix it, okay? So once you add that record, let me show you what it looks like. This is what it looks like right down here, okay? It's right here. Once you add that, I want you to come back to the DMARKian website and check your domain again. Now, it may work right away or it may take a few minutes. So while we wait for this to kind of get all set up, right? It just takes a little bit of time sometimes for everybody to talk to each other and all that jazz. So let's just give this a little bit of time and we'll come back to it. And we are going to move on to tip number 3. And tip number 3 is going to be brand consistency, okay? So let's come back over here to Subtrio. All right, so what brand consistency means is they want to see that your from address, like, when you get an email, there's always a from da 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 da, right? They want that to match the root domain of your sending domain. Okay, so what does that exactly mean? It can be all these words, it can be a little bit confusing. So for Simple Tech Connections, my dedicated sending domain is contact.simpletechconnections.com. Okay, so when I send an email from my Simple Tech Connections, I need to make sure that the from email matches the root domain of the dedicated sending domain. So contact.simpletechconnections.com. The first contact makes it the subdomain, okay? Simple Tech Connections is my root domain. Okay, so let me show you. I'm in, let me go back out. I'm just in the emails underneath templates, and this is a little email that I send myself when someone buys a product from me. I know it's a little bit silly, but it also gives you a little bit of a boost, okay? So when I click on these three dots right here and click on settings, it's gonna allow me to do the from name and the from email, okay? Now I use the custom values for that because it's easier. And I'll show you where that pulls from real quick. But if you were just typing it in on your own, which I highly recommend just using the custom values because it's easy, but my email address is rachel@simpletechconnections.com. Okay, so brand consistency, they want the from email to match the root domain on your dedicated sending domain. Okay, so remember the root domain is simpletechconnections.com. And see how I have it, Rachel@simpletechconnections.com. So this matches the root domain on my dedicated sending domain, okay? And so I highly recommend you set up an email through your host provider with that root domain, okay? We don't want to be sending from like a Gmail or a Yahoo address, and we'll actually get to that. That's the next tip. Tip number 4, don't pretend to be Google or Yahoo. We want to make sure that emails are coming from our root domain. They're not coming from like rachel@gmail.com. Now, obviously, I can't go get rachel@gmail.com, right? But they don't want us pretending to be them, okay? So your emails need to be set up with the root domain from your website. So for me, that's simpletechconnections.com, and that needs to match the root domain on your dedicated sending domain. Okay. Now I realize that that might be a little bit confusing, but I hope I explained it okay. If you have questions on it, just let me know. Okay. So let me show you real quick. So like I said, I use the custom values for this instead of typing in my email every time. So if you click here, come down to account. Account is always your information, okay? Come down to email. That's going to automatically auto-populate my email address. And let me show you where that pulls from real quick. If you come to your settings, let me go back for a minute. If you come down here and click on your settings, and then go into your business profile and scroll down, your business email, that is the email address that this custom value pulls from, okay? So if you want to be able to just use the custom values for this, make sure this email address is set up to be the one that you want your from emails to be from, okay? And then you would just click on save, and then that is set up. So again, to recap, tip number 3, brand consistency, make sure the from email in your emails that you're sending out matches the root domain for your dedicated sending domain. Okay, so again, my dedicated sending domain is contact.simpletechconnections.com. The email, my from email that I'm sending out with my emails is rachel@simpletechconnections.com. that root domain matches on my dedicated sending domain and my from email. And then again, that goes into tip number 4. Don't pretend to be Google or Yahoo. I'm sorry, Gmail or Yahoo. Same difference, right? Okay. We don't want to be sending emails with a from email that's rachel@gmail.com or rachel@yahoo.com. Okay. We want to be setting up a business email underneath our hosting provider using that root domain. And your root domain is probably going to be your website domain, right? But you do that through your hosting provider. It's usually free. If it's not free, then you need to switch hosting providers. Okay, so that was tip number 3 and tip number 4. They kind of go together, but they are separate a little bit. Okay, so moving on. Tip number 5. We want to make sure that people can easily unsubscribe from our emails. Okay. I don't know about you guys, but how frustrating is it when you get emails from somebody and you want to unsubscribe and you can't find an unsubscribe link, and then you have to like go log into your account and find the settings, and that is just a mess. If people don't want to be on your email list, if they want to unsubscribe, just let them, okay? They're not your people anyways. So do not worry about making sure you have an easy to use unsubscribe link. So the good news here is Lead Connector, our email provider through Subtrio, has already worked on this for you. Okay, okay, so here is an email that we sent out for our new Facebook subscribers through Pips, okay? And see how they have this unsubscribe link right here? This is a one-click unsubscribe link that's already been set up. Now, the caveat here is this only shows up if it's a bulk email, okay? It's not going to show up if it's just a one-to-one email, like if it's just a one-off email that I'm sending to you. This is only going to show up for emails that go out in bulk. So what do we do about the emails that are not in bulk? Well, this is something that you should be doing regardless, even before this update was to be implemented, okay? We want to make sure that there is an easy unsubscribe link in your email somewhere. You can put that at the top of your email. You can put it at the bottom of your email, wherever you want to. Obviously, most people put it at the bottom, right? But the thing is, we want to make sure it's easy and accessible and it is not hard to utilize, okay? So let me show you how to add an unsubscribe link to your Subtrio. So Subtrio makes this really easy for you, okay? The first thing you need to do is hop over into your business profile settings again, and you do that by clicking on the settings button. I realize it's not there, but if you're in your dashboard, click on settings and click on business profile, and you're going to scroll all the way down until you get to this general box right here. Now, there's actually a few things I want you to make sure you have checked on here. I want you to make sure you have mark emails as invalid due to hard bounce. I want you to have that checked on. I want you to have verify email address when first email is sent to new contact. I want you to have that checked on. Now, that does incur a very small charge. It's like $2.50 or something per 1,000 emails, I think. So it's a very teeny tiny charge. However, the benefits from that very small charge far outweigh the cost, okay? Because the system will automatically verify an email address that you added right before they send the first email to that contact, okay? So that's going to check and see if that email is valid or not. And if it's not a valid email, it's not going to send them an email. You're not going to get like marks against you when it comes to email numbers, okay? So make sure that's checked on. Now, the part that specifically is for unsubscribing, I want you to make sure this box is checked on also, okay? Make email compliant by adding an unsubscribe link in your email. Now, if you want to customize that a little bit, you can click on customize and change this wording a little bit. You just have to make sure that this unsubscribe tag is in there for it to work properly, okay? And then you would just save it if you do want to change that. So once you have that all checked on, you can come back to your email builder. Now you can add this in, in any of your emails. Subtrio makes it really nice because they automatically include all of this information in this footer option right here, okay? So you're just going to click on the plus button, click on footer, and drag it over. Now my email background is really dark, so you can't see it very well. So I'm going to highlight all this, turn it into a different color so we can actually see it, okay? And if I would actually probably add a whole nother section down here and make it all pretty, but this isn't an email that goes out to my customers, it just goes out to me. So, all right, now see, it's gonna automatically add all this footer information that you need, right? Copyright information, your email address, and again, it uses that custom value for the location.email that we talked about earlier. And then it's going to add this awesome little unsubscribe link down here that works automatically. You don't have to do anything to make it work, okay? And then you're going to save your template. Now, if you send this as a test email to yourself, that link is not going to work, okay? Let me see if I can find one real quick. Well, I don't see one offhand. I think this was a test email. So if you click on the unsubscribe link, yeah, it's going to tell you this, okay? But let me show you what it looks like coming from an actual email, okay? So this is an email we send out to our Facebook list. We talked about that earlier. We scroll to the bottom, see how we have that unsubscribe link in there? If you click on that, it's going to open it up into a new page. And so I already actually clicked on this. I need to go resubscribe myself to these emails. But it's going to tell you that your unsubscribe was successful, and then it's going to give your customer a little list of reasons that if they want to, they can click on a reason for their unsubscribe and submit that, okay? Okay, so that is how you very simply add a unsubscribe link to your emails. Now, this is only going to work if you are using the lead connector email. Like if you have your email set up in Subtrio the way I teach. Okay, if you are using a different email provider, this little unsubscribe link is not going to work, and you'll have to set up a custom unsubscribe link. And I'm going to go through that whole process in another video. Okay. Okay, so for our last tip, tip number 6, optimize your email delivery. Okay, so what does that mean? We want to make sure that we are maintaining a really nice clean list. We want to make sure that we have this checked, and we want to make sure we have this checked. So we're not sending emails out to people with unverified email addresses, okay? We want to make sure our emails are marked invalid due to our hard bounce because we don't want to be resending those emails to people, right? When this is checked, if an email gets a hard bounce, it gets marked in the system and you don't send emails to that person again, okay? We want to make sure that we are keeping our spam numbers below 0.3%. And so you just got to make sure that you are taking care of your email list, that you're not just sending random emails to people, to random email addresses. Okay, make sure you keep everything verified. Let me show you real quick what that looks like in your contacts. Okay, so I just pulled up my contact real quick and see right here underneath email, it has this little checkbox right here, okay? And so the system automatically did that for me before it sent me my first email since I had the verification enabled. And if you need to, you can always re-verify the emails by clicking this link, okay? All right, so let's recap real quick, okay? So we want to make sure we set up a dedicated sending domain, first and foremost. Second of all, we want to make sure we get our DMARC, DKIM, and SPF records all set up, okay? Number 3, we want to make sure we have brand consistency, that your root domains match on your dedicated sending domains and on your from email address that you're using when you're sending your emails out. We want to make sure that you are not pretending to be Google or Yahoo. Okay. Send those emails, set up a business email address. Make yourself look professional, right? Set up an email from your root domain, so rachel@simpletechconnections.com, and don't be sending your emails from something like rachel@google or at gmail.com, okay? Number 5, make sure you have an easy way to unsubscribe. Okay, make sure you include that link someplace in your email and you will be good to go. And number 6, make sure you optimize your email delivery. Now, I don't claim to be an email marketer. That is not my where I am proficient, but I need you guys to make sure that you have those little boxes checked so the system can work with you, with your email list, and make sure that you are not sending emails out to emails that are unverified and are giving you a hard bounce and things like that, okay? So I know that was a lot of information, a lot of technical stuff. Just work with your hosting provider. They can help you work through all of this. Again, this is just for Subtrio people. This is just if you are using our lead connector email that comes with Subtrio, that you have everything set up on there, okay? If you're using something like MailerLite or Flowdesk, that is beyond the scope of this video, and you'll have to get in touch with them and see what all you need to do. So yeah, again, if you have any questions, please let me know. I will be happy to help. And just make sure that you use the DMARCian again to get your domain checked. It still hasn't verified for me yet. Sometimes it just takes a little while. But if you give it a little bit of time and it still isn't, contact your host provider, see if there's an error or something in there, okay? All right, I'll see you in the next video.